Welcome to Web Development Lesson 8.3. In this video, we're going to see how we can add additional functionality to HTML that we generate. We're also going to explore how to make additional RESTful API calls in order to provide more information to our user. As our motivation, we're using the MovieDB, which has a lot of great information about movies in theaters and on TV, as well as past and present. Now, this particular resource requires you to sign up in order to retrieve an API key. Once you've done that, you can simply click on your profile picture, go to Settings. On the left side, you'll see a navigation bar with API. And then from there, you'll get your actual API key. Now, they also give you a sample request as to how to use that key, but we're going to replace that with our own RESTful API call that we're going to research through the MovieDB. So let's get to it. So if you go here, again, this is the other part that might be challenging when you go to a website that has RESTful API calls, is where to find them. So again, the thing is you have to look for something that says API. Again, all websites that offer this RESTful API calls will have a link that you can go to kind of investigate. Now you might go here expecting to see a bunch of API calls. But you have to go one step further. You can see here to view all methods available, you got to go to the developers section. So you should feel good about yourself. You're a developer now. And again, once you get here, you might still be like, because some other websites, their API calls are relatively simple. So they just simply provide it to you on the first page. But in this case, there is a ton of different API calls that you can make, and they're grouped by different purpose. So we're going to stick to the ones that deal with movies. So if I click on that, you'll see that it opens up another section. And inside of here, we're going to, obviously you can play around with the ones that you want, but we're going to focus on actually the one that comes up by default, which is movie plus an ID, as well as additional videos. All right. So let's head on over to our Replit example. And let's see what we got. Let's go ahead and just refresh, make sure that this is the latest copy. So the way we're going to interact with the MovieDB is we're going to ask the user for a particular movie, and then we're going to go searching through the MovieDB to find, all movies that match that particular search. Now, the other thing you'll notice is that Batman was already there. One of the things I suggest when you're doing something like this and testing something a lot is to actually add a value to the text input, because if not, you're going to sit there typing something in every single time, which can get rather annoying. So again, that's where the Batman comes in, and every time you refresh the page, you're going to see the Batman. So let's click on View, and we'll see here, this is the information we get back, which right now is currently an array of 20, with each thing in the array being a JSON, which some information, there could definitely be more. So we can see here we got the title, and we've generated a card that has the title on it, and the poster picture, right here, poster picture. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about that poster picture. So the actual information that's included in the JSON is just the poster path, like the name of the picture and its file type. You actually would have to go to the MovieDB API website to find this starter link for it, which again, sometimes can be challenging, but trust me, you can find it. All right, so what we would like to do is to add an additional button here that then would display more information on the right side about that particular movie. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build in a button. Even though we're not actually going to use like a button input, or even in past videos, you may have used an anchor as an input. At this point, we're simply going to use a div. Again, because of some CSS that's included as part of this example, we have a class called button that will make it kind of look like a button. The other thing we're going to do is, let's do an on-click of show movie. And I'm just going to leave it like that for right now. Let's get outside. Let's close this off. Let's put info. Oops. As you can see, I'm very used to using an anchor to create buttons. That should be pretty much it. Let's take a look. Let's run our web page again. And notice I'm not typing in anything. So there's our button. It looks good. It's not functional right now because all we have is just a show button. But just to show you how this can react, I do have a shell of a function over here that accepts an ID. So if you notice that for every particular movie, there's an ID that gets associated with it. So let's go ahead and pass that ID into our function. So I'm going to do a little string interpolation. And because I want to be able to pass it in as a string, even though it looks like a number, I'm going to use a single quotes. Then I'm going to string interpolate the ID, which would be movie.id. And this single quote is on the wrong side. Let's put it on. No, actually, that's on the right side. I forgot to close out the string interpolation. All right, so let's go over to our helper.js and let's simply display that ID. Just to make sure that we are sending the show movie function the proper ID for the movie we want to get more information about. Let's go ahead and refresh. Look up Batman again. Let's choose the second one. All right, so you can see here 268, and let's just verify that. That would be the second movie. And sure enough, that is Batman with an ID of 268. So now what we would like to do is to be able to pull additional information for this. So I'm actually going to do this in one step instead of doing it two. Because again, we kind of saw how we can get the RESTful API calls from the MovieDB. So I already got that. Let's copy and paste these two lines. Put it here. So what you're seeing here is that I'm using the ID that was passed into us to build a RESTful API link, again, based off what we saw from the MovieDB. So the first one is the movie with an ID in order to get additional information just about that movie. And the second one is a RESTful API to videos about that link. And I'm gonna go ahead and comment out this one because we already have two comments in here. The first one being for the info and then the one for the video. I'll keep the original one from the data so you can see we've made 3 RESTful API calls for that same input. Let's go ahead and run it. Again, this is the original RESTful API call that we find all movies that are somehow associated with Batman. Let's focus on the first one. So you can see here we get 2 additional pieces of information from the MovieDB. The first one is the more information specific to that movie because we did the search by ID. So you can see here we get a budget, we get a home page for the movie. We get some of the information that we got originally, which is the title, the overview. We got the poster path as well. And again, I'll leave it up to you as to what additional information you want to grab from the movie, from the original one. But the cool thing here now is the next one. So again, these are also videos associated with that particular movie, and you see that it comes back with an array. Little Caesar sneaks a peek. What's that all about? Oh, I got you. So I'm like, what's that all about? So these are particular subtitles to that video for it. You know what? Let me click on the next one because it'll make more sense. All right, so the name for this one is Full Movie Preview. It's a YouTube video with a key right here. So this is the key to the actual YouTube video. So again, if you've played around with YouTube, there's some unique key that gets associated with every YouTube. Kind of like what we've seen with everything else. You need some way of tracking it. So we're going to want to be able to kind of pull this key and actually form a embedded YouTube video on our additional piece of information. Now for that, again, I'm not going to bore you by typing all this. I actually have it, and we'll just review it a little bit. But before we review it, I just want to, reiterate what we're doing here. Originally, we started off with a RESTful API call that simply did a search for all movies of a particular, that had a particular name in the title. We have now added a button to each of those movies that's unique because we're embedding the ID as part of a on-click on a button in order to show more information about the movie, which lands us to this function that we've been working on throughout this video, that is show movie. So again, nothing special here. These two RESTful API calls, I've pulled the additional information into a variable called info and the YouTube information into a variable called video. So we simply just reiterate the idea of the title along with the poster picture. We added a tagline, the overview, which is a description of the movie, the running time, and then we simply added the video, which is the cool part about it. And let's see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and close out the developers tool. Let's go ahead and refresh it. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. All right, so let's look at this Batman. And so you can see here, actually, let me shrink it back down again. So we get the title, we get the tagline, we get a description, how long the movie is, we get the poster picture again. But now the cool thing is that you got a YouTube video. Let's select another one. So you can see this makes it very fun to have something that we've pulled through a RESTful API call, but then allow the person to interact with those things to further get information about it. So hopefully you're excited about this. This is really cool. And let's go back to our presentation. All right, so in this video, we saw how we can add additional functionality to HTML that we generated. Again, that's a very common thing because, again, you don't want to flood those initial cards with too much information. We simply added a button to each of these generated pieces of information that then somehow knew the specific card that you were clicking on. Again, there's various ways of doing that, but somehow this additional functionality needs to know the card that you clicked on. In our example, we decided to use additional RESTful API calls in order to get more information about movies as well as a YouTube video, and then generated a card for that on the screen. So hopefully you're excited about adding more functionality to the work that you do, and enjoy.